Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining PHCA for today's webinar, Place the Right People on the Bus in the Right Seats. I'm Wendy Johnson with the Pennsylvania Healthcare Association. PHCA offers monthly webinars to members to receive updates from department staff on regulations, learn from industry experts on current trends and practices, and to gain a better understanding of practical application tools to equip you so that you may continue to provide the highest level of quality care possible. Before we begin, I have a few housekeeping items to cover. This webinar is being recorded and will be made available on the PHCA website later today. The webinar has been approved for one continuing education credit for nursing home, assisted living, and personal care home administrators. Certificates will be emailed later today, and please note that effective April 1st, I am required to upload the credits to the NAB registry. So hopefully you have all made have all registered for this free service and have provided us with your unique NAB registry number. I'll be sending a link to a quick survey. Please complete this survey, and if you are participating in a group setting, have each participant also complete the survey. Your feedback is important to us and our speaker. All attendees will be in listen-only mode. However, throughout the presentation, please feel free to submit questions using your questions pane on the right hand of your screen, and our presenter will address them at the end of the presentation. Now for today's webinar. This webinar is being presented by Roni Fogelman, President and Founder of LedgeRock Consulting. The most valuable resource we have in healthcare is our people. However, do we hire based on that premise? It is known that the greatest leaders know themselves well. They know their strengths and they know the areas that need to be shorn up. They understand we all have strengths and weaknesses. This session takes this practical theory to the department heads and teams in facilities. How do we ensure that a potential candidate has the values that match our culture? Are we sure that we reward what is critical to their happiness? Do we understand clearly what attributes the new hire must possess to be successful in the position, in the culture? Are the decision-making teams in our centers a balance of the four profiles? For instance, a team of all drivers may get the job done quickly while missing key factors. A team of all checkers may take months to make decisions, but it will have been totally vetted. However, a team with a few of each and maybe a persuader and a protector thrown in creates a balanced team and will accomplish the goal while ensuring details are vetted and people considered. Your learning objectives for today's webinar include effective hiring. The attendees will be able to describe the challenges facing hiring the wrong person, the cost of replacing them, and the challenges with identifying the right person. They will be able to explain several approaches to benchmarking the positions, assessment tools, and interviewing methods. Team effectiveness. You will be able to describe some of the dysfunctions in teams while explaining methods to avoid these challenges. You will be able to demonstrate team building techniques through understanding member values, skills, and attributes. You will be able to demonstrate the use of assessment as hiring and managing tool. How it works. You will be able to have the opportunity to take a quiz enabling you to demonstrate how hiring the right people for your environment and placing them in the right position for your value system enables leaders to build powerful and trusting teams. I'll now turn the webinar over to Roni.
Okay, thank you, Wendy. Good morning, everyone. First, I want to thank Wendy and Pennsylvania Healthcare for inviting me to do the webinar. And it's my pleasure, of course, to bring you as much information as I can about the hiring process. So I wanted to start off this morning with two quotes. There are two areas that really impact our ability to make certain that we have the right people in the right seats in our culture. The first quote is from the TNT company that does a lot of the assessment programs. It states that 83% of workers in a recent survey said they were stressed about their jobs. 50% of those said that it's affecting their sleep. So that's a really important piece for us to look at today as we look at how we choose people for the positions we're going to put them in, and are we sure that we are matching what they need to be happy and content in their role as well. And recently, McKnight's had an article that stated, and I'll quote, "The future will be bright for facilities that can provide high quality and cost-efficient care." So one of the ways that I always look at that we can get to that spot where we're providing high quality costs, many others, of course, but is by making sure that we have happy, healthy, content employees working in the role that we want them to work in and that they're happy working in. So I thought I might first talk a little bit about, excuse me, the future of the IL, PC, SNF, and home care business. What do we know right now? And I'm going to move pretty quickly through these slides because we have a lot of information to cover. And as Wendy said, you'll all be able to get this PowerPoint at the end of the day. We all know that our healthcare industry is changing. We all know that our clients are changing. As they age and as our world changes around them, they're becoming different than what we were used to. For those of us who have been in this industry for over 30 years, we've seen the changes occurring. There's buyouts, mergers, takeovers. They're now the norm, where years ago when I first began in the industry, even though maybe I took part in them, they happened rarely. Now they seem to be the norm. Add to that over the last few years, we've seen declining occupancy in our SNFs from 2015 until this year. And this year, we're continuing the trend. We're being challenged with occupancy in our SNF world. The senior population is it's continuing to shift. It's going to continue to shift away from skilled care. That's a challenge for us. So what do we need to do about it? And what kind of people do we need to have in our communities to be able to handle the challenges we're facing? Add to that Medicare, Medicaid rising costs, the declining reimbursements we're receiving. Many times in today's world, the home care option or senior living options are our people's first choice. So what can we look forward to? Well, the 75 plus age group is going to provide a slight increase for us in 2019. We're going to see a slight occupancy, and I really do mean slight occupancy, projected to increase in 2019. But that silver tsunami we've been waiting for, it's not going to hit until about 2025. We expect at that point, as the 80 plus group ages, excuse me, the 75 to 81 population is going to begin to increase, and they are going to be requiring health care. But the caveat here, or the warning for us, is that health care they're looking for is going to need to be delivered differently than the way we've delivered in the past. I'm sure this isn't new to any of you, but I want to make the point, because what we're going to need to be able to handle this are different types of people, different types of employees. The concept of independent living is no longer synonymous with nursing home. That's a huge change that I've seen. Years ago, when you said nursing home, when you said independent living, it meant nothing different than nursing home to people. But there's been a massive shift occurring. And the innovations company that's Ann Tumlinson's put this together and does this type of a study for us. You can see the shift going from inpatient care to outpatient. And this only ends in 2015. The expectation is this is going to continue. And I want to talk a little bit about what that's going to look like. What are we going to see in the next 10 years? We need to look at how to create service delivery and care management hubs. To do that, we have to hire talented IT people, talented technicians that can provide advanced metrics for us. So long gone are going to be the days where the competitive analysis or the environmental study that we did where we called and asked our competitors, what's your census today? Those days are gone. We really are going to need to have people that can give us metrics, that can get us ready for the next year, the next 3 years, the next 5 years, long in advance of when it happens. We also need to become key partners with risk-bearing organizations and not just hospitals. We need to know what's going on out there in our world and be very aware of what's coming next. I mean, we're seeing pharmaceutical companies looking at becoming care hubs. They're looking at what can we do to bring people into our company and we can give them the care that they need. You may even, according to Ann Tomlinson, partner with managed care organizations. Your community may actually have its own managed care organization. All of these are projections for the near future. We're going to need to look at maintaining an environmental market analysis that helps us plan 3 years, 5 years, and 10 years. We're going to need to be able to look at how do we identify marketing opportunities that can identify a customer long before they get to us and manage them through the entire healthcare process. According to Josh Bagley, organizations that are not adapting and changing are not going to be around in 5 or 10 years. So when we look at that, all of this that we're facing is causing some workplace challenges. It starts sometimes with, as I see when I go into companies, I see stalled revenues. That's usually when I get called is, we've done everything, we know what to do, and we're doing the marketing and we're doing ads and we're doing all these things, and our revenues are either stagnant or declining. Once that occurs, you start seeing slipping performances in your buildings. Add to that the wrong hires that we keep hiring over and over and over again, it produces high turnover. Once we have a high turnover, the first thing that happens is your superstar employees see it and they start leaving. When your superstars leave, your leadership starts to burn out. As the leadership burns out, you definitely end up with unhappy employees, nervous, unhappy employees that don't know where they're going to be in a year or 6 months or even a month. You end up with very low level employee engagement, reduces to a lack of energy, innovation, and a lack of creativity. Recently, a JobBite study was just conducted of the over 1,400 HR professionals they surveyed. They said that the major block for them to be able to hire good people is a lack of communication skills and a lack of personal skills. And I can attest to this because in the role that I had years ago at ManorCare, my role was really looking to make sure we were hiring the best directors of marketing, the best regional marketing managers. And at any one given time, I might be looking at 55 to 60 regional marketing managers. The number one reason that I lost good people was because of their personal or communication skills. It was usually not because of their sales ability, or it was because of communication and personal skills. So what do we do about that? How do we identify that long before we hire them and get them in the role? I want you also to think about the turnover that's happening, and not just in the sales department. This particular study that the Harvard Business Review did looked at average annual turnover in sales of between 25 and 30%. Well, that meant that the entire sales organization was being hired and trained every 4 years or so. Well, my experience has been we're hiring and training admissions and marketing and move-in people a lot more than every 4 years or so. So if you think about the cost of this, it's sort of the standard is sort of about 150% of the salary, that's what it's going to cost you to replace someone. So let's say we have someone at $50,000 a year, whatever the role, whatever the position is. If you look at 150% of that, it's $75,000 to replace that person. And that isn't including the loss of sales, the loss of community involvement. If you have 100 employees at a 10% turnover rate, you're going to end up with an estimated cost of over $750,000. So you want to be really careful with this. So let's look at kind of how we find the right people, or what that means. So of course we talked about the why, the cost of the turnover, and the stagnant revenue are all why you want to look at the right people. The how, there's 3 areas. Understand the role. We're going to talk a little bit about that. How do you understand the role you're hiring for? Be aware of your culture. They're very different. I very often would interview someone that I wanted maybe to hire as a regional marketing and salesperson in a particular region. And even though they were very, very skilled at what they did with lots of experience, they weren't a fit for the culture of that region. The culture is always based on the leadership. So you're the leaders. If you understand what your culture is, you can fit people correctly. We're going to talk about that a little bit. And then they outline the requirements for success. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. I want to talk a little bit about some results that we've actually seen in my company, in LedgeRock, by doing something like this. One of the things that we found when we went into several companies, several communities, was that there was a challenge with the salesperson, whatever that title is. It can be admissions, marketing, moving coordinator, community liaison, whatever that sales role is. They were being asked to do sales externally, internally, touring, and they were being asked to follow up on leads. And the leads would be anyone who came in for a tour, anyone who called you, anyone who wasn't ready yet. All of those people go into what we call a lead base. What we did, oh wow, my screen is moving crazily here. Let me go back. Oh, what's going on here? Let me move it back to where I went. What we did in this particular case was we took someone and put them in a community and gave them the role of just following up on leads. That's all they did. They do it from their home. We chose the right people that really wanted to do nothing but call and talk to families. They don't do anything else. And what we saw was an increase of being able to bring people in for a tour increased by 55%. We increased the tour to sales rate once the people got in the building to 90%. We increased the IL waiting list by hundreds. And the external marketing team then was able to significantly be more productive because they were doing what they wanted to do, what they love to do. I'm going to skip that one. Okay, let's look at how we evaluate a candidate for a sales position. Traditionally, what we usually do is we get a resume, we bring them in for an interview, and we hire them or we don't hire them based on your gut feeling, the position, the culture. So I'm going to ask you to think about looking at this process a little differently. The company culture is important, but it's 10%. The background check and reference checks are important, 30%. The structured interview, 30%. And then I'm going to add the assessment results, and we're going to talk about that. And that's only 30%. So you're looking at a process that's incorporating all of the key components that are important to hiring the right person. So we're going to look at those. The first rule is to know your position. When I am called to go in and talk to folks about their sales structure, let's say, the first thing I ask them is to tell me about the position that you want to hire for. And very often I will uncover that there really isn't a good understanding of the position first. They know what they think it is, and they know what they would like it to be. They don't very often know exactly what the role is that you're trying to fill. What is it? What is the type of person? If the job could talk to you, what would it tell you? What would it say is absolutely necessary for this person to possess to be successful in this role? So that's the first rule. I'm going to show you this because this is what you end up with after you do an assessment. And it may look a little concerning right now, but it's relatively pretty simple. There, you create what's called a benchmark for the role. And that benchmark tells you exactly what skills you want the person that you're hiring to possess. You have a team of people. The team of people does an assessment, and they come up with, these are the personal skills that I think, that we as a team think the person should have. They should be results oriented. They should be resilient. They should be good at leading others. They should be diplomatic and tactful and have conceptual thinking. There are 23 personal skills. Of those 23, this team decided these were the most important. There are 6 values. This team decided that this person that they want to hire to fill this position should love to learn and be theoretical. They have to learn new things. They needed to be political, which meant that they are on their own. They want to be in charge of their destiny. They want to get out into the world and do things on their own. They don't need to be micromanaged. And they follow the rules. They're high regulatory. These are the key pieces that the team decided for this role. And then there's behaviors. Behaviors are the area that can change the most over time based on your experience and the jobs that you've had. But for this position, the team decided they needed someone who was analytical, who had a sense of urgency and was competitive. And then you'll see at the bottom, there's a key there that tells you how important did the team think these things were. And you can see these are the areas they thought were very important and important. When the applicant comes in and they take an assessment, the assessment will show what they possess, what skills, personal skills, values, and behaviors match the benchmark. In this case, the applicant who came in for an interview and then was asked to take an assessment, you can see how they match against the benchmark. So yeah, they're very results oriented and they're very diplomatic and tactful, which is probably why they did a good interview, but they're not terribly resilient, not great at leading others, and their ability to kind of connect the dots for conceptual thinking is not as strong as we would like it to be. They're absolutely red, which is a poor compatibility for theoretical. This is someone who really isn't looking to learn new things. They're really going to go with what they've learned, and they want to go with what's tried and true. They're good at being out on their own, being in charge of their own destiny, and they follow the rules. The behaviors, they are not very analytical. They also aren't terribly competitive or possess a sense of urgency. Now I can bring this person back, and I can do, if I choose, to do a second interview. I may look at this and go, no, I've got 2 other applicants who fared much better. But if indeed this is the person that during the interview I really liked, I can bring them back in and talk to them, ask them questions about their ability to learn. Tell me what you've done. All of those types of things I now have access to, and I can make sure I'm hiring the right person. So rule number 2 for me, once you know what the job is to really use an assessment. Use an assessment tool and rely on the results to match the values of the job you're looking to fill. So I want to talk a little bit about those 3 areas that we just touched on, because it's important to understand exactly what they are. The values are what gets you up in the morning. We all have them. They've been in place since we were 13. They rarely change. Short of winning the lottery or any catastrophic event in your life, your values are why you chose the job you have, hopefully. The values are what gets you up every day. So if my value is social, let's say I have a high social value, what gets me up every morning is that I'm doing something that's benefiting someone or something in the world. That's my value system. Maybe that's the person I want to hire. Maybe I want to hire the person who's driven by economics. They want to get paid. They want to make a paycheck. They love to earn a bonus. But it's very difficult to tell that in an interview. It is very easy to tell that in an assessment. Behaviors are how you do the job. So what is your style of work? What is the environment you prefer? What kind of management do you like? So for instance, are you versatile? Do you need to be around people, or do you prefer to sit in an office on your computer? And there's people that love to look at graphs and charts and numbers. They don't really want to be with people. It's really important to know those behavior styles when you're hiring someone for the business office manager, or your director of nursing, or your salesperson. These are the important pieces that you can tell in an assessment. And then the personal skills are, will they do the job? Your personal skills, as I said, are the most easily changed. These are the skills that are either valued or not valued in this current role. So, are you a problem solver? Does this role require a problem solver? Are you a conceptual thinker? Are you empathetic? Is that required in this role? Because sometimes it's just not required. And then it isn't important what those values and behaviors are. So let's look at these two different types of people. When you do an assessment, you will find out what the values are, what the behaviors are, and what the skills are. But you're also going to find out whether someone is a director profile, a persuader profile, a protector profile, or a checker profile. For instance, a director, and there are many assessments you can use. There are many companies that do assessments. I have one I use, but there are many. They are all very similar. What you want to do is make sure that they measure values. That's the most important. When you get an assessment done, these 4 words might be different. A director might be a doer. A persuader might be a talker. They're all different, those 4 words, but they're all the same. So for instance, if you have a director or a persuader, you're going to have a high energy person. They're usually flashy. They talk fast. They talk with their hands. They make very quick decisions. They get things done. They have a take charge attitude. These are the people that have a hard time sitting still. They're tapping their fingers and toes. They usually lean back on the chair because they're getting up, walking around the room. This is the person in the middle of a presentation that'll jump right up and have something to input or add. These are usually these are your leaders, your maybe your salesperson, maybe your director level person who wants to be in charge. They want to take over. They want to run things. Then you have the protector checker group. Though it says low energy, don't mistake that. Why is this doing this? Don't mistake this for someone who is not energetic. That's not what it means. What it means is they're pensive, quiet, controlled. This is the person that will sit at the table and not say anything until the very end. Very often when I go do presentations for a company that maybe I would like to get their business, I always ask who's going to attend. And I love it when I hear the CFO is going to attend, because this is your CFO. They will sit there most often. They will sit there quietly at the end of the table and not say anything until we're all finished. Meanwhile, the director persuaders have a million questions. They have a lot to say, but at the end, the protector checker will have great questions, and they will have a lot of them. They are consistent, they're routine, they want lots of facts, and they manage their emotions with a cool demeanor. Now, different roles in your communities and your buildings require different people, different styles of people. Maybe your culture requires a different style of a person. So it's really helpful to know this when you're looking at hiring someone. I put this slide in here because I wanted you to just see kind of what you would get in any type of an assessment. The first 2 blocks you're looking at there are based on what we call the DISC formula, which was put into place years ago and is followed by almost all assessments that you would take. All the Match.coms, all of those are following these same types of assessment rules. You'll see there's a natural style, and this particular person has a very high yellow bar, and that is a persuader, a talker, a high energy person who loves to communicate. Very often this may be your salesperson, but it also can be your administrator or your executive director or your director of nursing. This person has a red bar, which is your director. It's a little bit below the bar, the midway. So you can see this is not going to be someone who's out there telling everybody what to do all the time. The green bar is the protector, and this person has a relatively high protector. This means they're empathetic and caring, and they really want to understand people. So is that important for the role? I don't know. And the blue bar is your checker. This is the analyzer, the organizer, the person that loves facts and numbers. And you can see, this is about my score, folks, for all of you that know me. I have a very low checker score, which means to me, I need to surround myself with people who are really good at numbers and graphs and asking, asking the very detailed questions. So you would always get something like this. And then to the right of that are your values. You always get a graph that shows you this particular person is a high economic. That gold bar means that this is the person who's going to love a bonus program. They're going to love to know that they're making a good salary for what they're being paid. If someone is low here, let's say they have a low gold bar, simply means that doesn't matter to them. That's not why they go to work in the morning. Maybe they have a very high kind of turquoise bar there. That's a social. What they care more about, if that bar is high, is that they're doing good for the world. And maybe that's the type of person you want to hire. All that means is you have insight into this person you're about to hire. There'll be no surprises. You're going to know the person you're hiring. And the bottom graph, I won't go into, but suffice it to say that this tells me if I have someone who has leadership qualities. The little red asterisk to the left of the bars equate to 68% of the population hits at least that level. Usually, I don't like to hire people that score below in any of these categories, below that red asterisk, because if they're below there, they're like 4 foot high and 6 foot weeds. So let me see if I can move us back here. I don't know why this keeps jumping ahead, but that's all that simply means. And what I wanted you to see here is the insight that you will have into people that you're looking to hire. It's especially people that are maybe managing other people or caring for other people. There's a certain type of person you're looking for. And the third rule here is that it should only be 30% of the decision. Remember, we talked about this, and that there's 30% is the interview, 30% is your resume and your reference checks, and 30% is knowing the job. Keep going. This keeps moving ahead on me. I'm not quite sure. So remember that these are all tools that you can use in your toolbox when you're looking to hire people. So I want to talk now a little bit about one of the really important 1/3, and that is the interview. The interview, when I go in and help companies, when I'm working with them on maybe building up their sales force, and they want to make sure they're hiring the right people for their sales force, or they're hiring executive directors and they want to make sure they have the right person in that role. Very often I'll ask them if I can be there to sit in on a couple of the interviews, because the interview process is really important. I see a commercial on TV where they're talking about how you can go online and there's a company that you can hire to help you bring the right candidates forward. And what it purports is they've now made it easy. Well, my belief is hiring the right people is not easy. It's never been easy. It's not going to be easy now. It takes a lot of work. But if you get the right people, You're going to surround yourself with a group, with a team of people that are unbelievable because they love what they do. They're feeling valued. They're the right person to be in that seat on the bus. So let's talk about the interview. The first step is to make sure you interview more than 1 or 2 people. My recommendation is always 5 to 10. Look at 5 to 10 candidates. Let's say you interview 2 and one of them's just great and one of them not so much. Don't hire that one because you may have missed 3 or 4 other people that are even better, that are a perfect match for the job that you want. So interview 5 or 10. I know this is time consuming. I can feel all your head shaking right now or your eyes are rolling because I know how much time it takes. But then narrow it down to 2 or 3. Base your choice at this point on the experience that matches what you have said is your job benchmark. So for this particular job, I'm looking for A, B, and C, and this person has them. I've narrowed it down to 2 or 3. Now ask those 2 or 3 people to take the assessment. Only your best candidates. You don't have to have everyone take the assessment. You're going to use your gut to get them down to the 5 or 10 and your job benchmark. And then you're going to ask them to take the candidate and review or take the assessment, Review the assessment now based on the match to the job. Talk to your team and identify with the team any concerns on that. Remember that red, yellow, green match that we had? Are there concerns on there? Talk to your team. Maybe they'll say, for this particular job, that piece that we thought was important isn't really that important. I can help with that, or I can fill that in. And then schedule a second interview for your final 1 or 2 candidates. Maybe it's only 1. That's okay. Now let's talk about this interview. Most of the time when I go in and observe an interview, unfortunately what I find is it is not an interview of the applicant. It is being taken as an opportunity for the person doing the interviewing to sell their building or sometimes to sell themselves. I'm a great manager. You would love to work for me. I like to do this type. Our building is the best. We've had, we have a lot of occupancy. We really are looking. This is not the time for you to talk about you. We want you to conduct the final interview with a focus on any areas of concern that you've identified in the assessment. And I would recommend that you have several team members either do their own interview or sit in on the interview. And when you're interviewing, ask questions and be quiet. You will learn more, by asking questions, good questions. And your HR people can give you all the wonderful questions, the situational questions. Tell me about a time you did this. And those questions are based on anything that's coming back as a mismatch on your assessment, because that's somewhere you want to dig into a little bit. You want to find out, well, maybe they've learned over the time. Maybe their natural inclination isn't to be empathetic. But when you talk to them and you ask them about a time they've had a difficult conversation with someone, talk to me about that, and you will be able to determine based on now this interview and the assessment and the benchmark, you'll be able to feel this person fitting into your team. Step 4, share the risk. Hold a team review. Discuss the behavior strengths and weaknesses. When I interviewed for my role at ManorCare, and I was asked to go and interview for that role, I had 13 interviews with 13 different people, 13 different times. And what I found out later was that each person that interviewed me left a voicemail for the CEO with their thoughts, my strengths, my weaknesses, areas they were concerned about, whether they thought I was a match or not a match. The CEO then listened to all of those reviews coming back from his team members, and upon that made his decision. Discuss the motivators to determine if this candidate is going to feel valued in this role. And here's why this is so important. if you know those people that say, I would do my job even if I didn't get paid for it, that's because they're at the right value. Whatever it is they're doing, when they wake up in the morning, they can't wait to go to work. They can't wait to do their job because it's the right match. It's the right value. So that's why these steps are so important. Now, I want to talk a little bit about, I'm going to check my time here. I want to talk a little bit about some other benefits of an assessment, because it's great for a hiring tool. We've talked about that. It can help you prevent turnover. It helps reduce the revenue loss to replacing your salespeople. It also reduces the cost of lost sales because you've got the right salesperson. You've actually hired someone who's competitive and has a sense of urgency. It increases effectiveness of your salespeople or any department head. But it's also a great management tool. So it helps you to understand how the employee reacts to management. When you're finished with this process, you will understand why your team members react the way they do. Let's assume you've decided to do an assessment on your department heads, just your senior management team or whatever that management team is for you. You will now understand why each employee reacts the way they do, why some want to be recognized in the middle of a meeting and some don't, why some people are always late with their reports, but they're great at other things. You can design development plans based on their profile, what's valuable to them, what they're good at, what they need help with. All of that is great because it comes from an assessment tool. It is also a wonderful personal development tool, and I can attest to this. It provides the unique opportunity for you to understand yourself. You'll understand why you are making the choices you choose by your values. You're going to learn how and why you interact in a certain way. I am a very direct person. I have very high expectations. I'm a high director. And I sometimes didn't react the way I should be reacting with my administrative assistant. Why? She is not a high director. She is a high social. So she really required for her values to be met for me to sit and talk to her, to greet her in the morning, to spend time with her. It was really important for our relationship. When I did the assessment, that's when I did both of our assessments, that's when I found that out. You use this information to improve your management style. It's also a great team building tool. Teams are made up of many different profiles. You may think your people are all alike, but they are vastly different. And understanding each one makes your team work better. So it's wonderful to have a team of people, especially if you know that this person loves to do reports. This person loves numbers and data. This person values being recognized. This person really doesn't want to stand up in front of a group of people. It doesn't matter to them if they get recognized. So all of this will improve the effectiveness of your meetings. It'll improve the effectiveness of your assignments to people. It'll improve your team. I actually did a team, this is just really annoying. I did a team workshop with Pennsylvania Healthcare Association to look at all of the people that were a member of their team and how different they were and different ways that they could all work together. It was a great fun exercise. So now we come to the part where you get to take a little quiz. So I'd like all of you to look at, sorry about that. Sorry guys, I don't know why it's doing that. I think every time I move, it jumps. I'd like you to look at this as a position that you and your team have benchmarked for an external sales and marketing person. Doesn't matter what the community is, what the building is. You have chosen as a team that for this position, you want someone who's highly economic. That means that money matters to them, achievement matters to them, and they love to learn. That's what you're looking for. Their behaviors, you want them to have a sense of urgency. You want them to be highly competitive. They've got to be able to be resilient, because when you're in sales, You get slapped down a lot. They've got to be able to come back, and they have to be personally accountable. So when you're personally accountable, you don't say, well, it wasn't my fault. It was this and it was that. They're going to say, yeah, I messed up. That's what you're looking for. You're looking for skill sets. They love to be with other people. They love teamwork. They have strong interpersonal skills. Their profile is a persuader director. Their experience, 3 years of sales, all in healthcare. This is the role that you're looking for. This is the person you're looking for. So now I'm going to give you 2 people. And I'm going to ask you to look at these 2 people and decide which one of them is the best fit for this job based on what you've found in their profile. So here you go. Both candidates have a strong resume. They both have 3 years of experience. They did a great interview. Both of them were in healthcare, and you've checked their references. They're excellent. But there is a difference. Candidate 1 is a high director profile, low personal accountability, low collaboration, that means teamwork, and high economic, which is one of your requirements, remember. Candidate 2 is a high persuader, low resiliency, which means they're not going to bounce back easily, low analytics, they really aren't going to do those reports on time probably, and a high value for independence. They want to be out on their own. They don't want to be micromanaged. So, Wendy, are you on the line?
I am.
Okay, so how do we do this poll? Do I do something?
Oh, I just launched it.
Okay, so those of you, I'm going to go back one slide and let you see your benchmark again. This is your benchmark. And these are your candidates. So what we're going to do is ask you to, is it raise their hand, Wendy?
They can see a poll on the screen, and I see voting coming in.
Okay, so they know how to do this. Pick candidate 1 or 2. And you can see this, right, Wendy? I can't see it. So maybe you can announce for us who the winner is.
Yes, we'll give it another couple seconds here. Looks like we've had about 45% voting.
I'll go back again so you can see your benchmark. And forward again, here are your candidates.
We'll give it about another 20 seconds. We have about 56% voting. Okay, we're up to 62%. We got about another 10 seconds.
So hurry up, make your choice. I know this is hard. Make your choice.
Oh, we still have votes coming in. We'll keep it open just a couple more seconds. We're up to about 70% voting.
The other 30% have fallen asleep during my presentation.
Okay, I'm going to close it, and you can see, I can tell you that 74% shows applicant 1 and 21% shows applicant 2.
Ah, okay, interesting. All right, well, first of all, there is really no right answer. I'm sure you figured that out. The candidate 1 is probably for an external salesperson going to get the job done, right? But remember, this is the person that's going to come back to you and say, well, it's the market, it's the hospital, it's low personal accountability. They're really not going to want to be in the building for any team meetings, low collaboration. And I would say you better give them a really good bonus. That's candidate number 1. Candidate number 2, everybody's going to love this person. They're a high persuader. And they're going to be out all the time. They're going to love to be out on their own. But they're going to get their feelings hurt when the team isn't supportive of them. And you're not going to get any reports out of them. So this is the kind of thing that you get to know when you use the assessment. So just as a quick recap, Take your time, hire the right person the first time, understand the position that you're trying to fill and what it takes to succeed and why people will feel valued in it. Use the three-prong approach: experience, assessment, and the SMART interview, where you don't talk, you ask questions and listen. Share the risk, use your team. Interview is all about the interviewee. Trust the assessment tool. Don't go against it. Many times I have companies that I give them an assessment tool and they choose to hire the person anyway, and I track it. I track how many of them last more than 3 months, and it's not really good. Manage by understanding your profile as well as theirs. And then the teamwork piece. Teams are or should be comprised of many profiles, varied behavior styles, and mixed attributes. Enjoy them. Use all those different profiles as long as you know them. A strong leader knows all of their team's strengths and manages to their differences, and the successful leader understands themselves. They understand where they're weak. So I wanted to announce one thing in case anyone is interested before we tie it up with questions. One of the things that I do at LedgeRock is a summer breakfast series. It is free, doesn't cost anybody anything. It is early. It's from 7 in the morning to 9:30, the second Thursday of every month during June, July, and August. And we are going to talk about these topics. And so if you're interested, just contact me. When you get this webinar, you'll see the email addresses and such, and we will send you all of the dates and the topics and the locations. Okay. And open for questions now. I think we still have a few minutes.
Great. Thank you so much, Roni, for that great information today. Again, we're opening up for questions right now. If you have any questions, please type them in the question pane and on the right hand of your screen, and we'll read those and answer those and finish up the webinar today. It was great timing and good information. Thank you. We'll give this a couple of minutes. Again, thank you everybody for participating on the webinar and on the poll. That was something new that I haven't tried before, so that was a great way to get everybody involved and thinking through your hiring processes.
Well, if there are no questions, I thank everyone very much.
Great. Thanks again. Don't forget to complete the survey, and we'll have the recorded webinar up on our website later today. Don't forget to check PHCA's website for upcoming webinars. We have several scheduled in the month of May, and we're starting to schedule into June. So look for that information, and we'll give you a couple minutes back in your day. Thanks again, Roni.
All right, you're welcome. Bye-bye.